Speaking of drinking alcohol, why don't we have a round of applause for your wonderful bartenders and wait staff? These lovely gentlemen back here. Be sure to tip them well. They're very nice men. Your next storyteller, I'm a huge fan of, but I pretend not to be a lot of the time. I pretend to be really cool around her. She is the editor for Bitch Media. You might have heard her on OPB many, many times. She also has a wonderful book out called Sex from Scratch. You guys are really going to enjoy her. Put your hands together for Sarah Mirk, everybody!
So this is going to surprise you, but I was a huge nerd in high school. I was a nerd's nerd, you know. I love tests and I love passing them. And like I didn't even get glasses until way long after I should have gotten glasses, because I would memorize the eye exam. I knew I couldn't see. I just memorized the eye exam and then repeat it back so that I would not even fail an eye exam. Like in high school, I identified really strongly with Jason Schwartzman's character in Rushmore. You know, I would found clubs just to be president of them. and I read a lot of. I didn't drink at all. I didn't do any drugs. I read a lot of fantasy books, read a lot of sci-fi. I often thought about what my life would be like if I were a wizard. You know? And like, you know, if I was a teen wizard and then like the archmage would come and pass his wand over me and judge my spirit. And and now I know if the archmage had come and passed his wand over me, what he would have said is, something like, "The shadow is strong in you." Because I was like the dangerous kind of nerd, you know, the kind of nerd who's really condescending and who thought because I was smart, nobody else could be smart, or thought because, you know, that I didn't need anybody else, you know. I did not have a lot of friends, but I was very independent. And when I was looking to graduate from high school, I wanted to get a summer job so that I could move out of my parents' house and like have my own apartment and buy my own groceries and have my own life. Like I said, I was fiercely independent. And so I looked up jobs, environment, Portland, and what came up was the very first Google hit was jobs to save the environment. And they were hiring. And so I called them up. And right there on the phone call, they said, "Wow, you are hired." And I was like, that's because I'm so smart and so special. And it seems like some of you know, when I got to Jobs to Save the Environment, which is on 12th and Clay, it turned out I had been hired for a canvassing job, going door to door and knocking on doors, asking for money to save the environment. The campaign that summer was stopping coal-fired power plants in Oregon and Northwest. And when I got there, I didn't really know what the job was, but I was so kind of, I guess, arrogant or proud of myself that I was like, whatever, I can do any job. I'll be the best at it, you know. And so, like, the group that was hired with me when I got there, it wasn't just me, apparently, who'd been hired on this day, but there was like 25 people who'd been hired on the same day as me. And they were, in my eyes, like a really motley crew, you know. I thought of them as like kind of like dirty hippies, and I was like, I don't know what this job is, but I'm going to be the best at it. And so I get a list of 100 doors to go knock on. Somewhere in Portland. They drive you out there, you're dropped off in the neighborhood, and then you and this clipboard and your little spiel about ending coal-fired power plants in the Northwest, and you just go up to a stranger's door and you knock on it. And then when they come to you, you ask them for money, you know. And And the first door said no, and the second door said no. And it very quickly became apparent that they did not care what my SAT scores were. They did not care how smart I thought I was. To them, I was just a stranger on their door asking them for money, which no. And so throughout the day, there's a level of increasing desperation, right? Because in addition to the job being to go and ask strangers for money, you have a quota. Your quota is $86 a day. And I don't know if it's still like this, but when I was 17 and I was hired there, if you missed your quota the first day, you had to work on Saturday. If you missed your quota the second day, you were fired. So for 2 days in a row, you can't get people to give you $86, you're fired. And so at first I would be pretty okay knocking on doors, and by the time it got to like 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., I was more desperate, more anxious. And I was pretty lucky. I would get $86 most of the days. And we'd get back to the place and we would count up the money. And it was so hard. It was so hard. But I still, the other people that did it, if you're able to do it for more than a month or two, you're really good at it. But I don't know. As I kind of looked down on them because, I was 17 and they were like 23, 24, 25, ancient to me. They were into bands I had never heard of, like Everclear. and they I thought of them as hard partying types because they would go out and get a drink after work. And it got to be where by maybe the fourth week or so of just this routine of you're handed a clipboard with 100 names, and then you're bussed out to let's say Lake Oswego or Tigard or Sandy. Just dropped off there, and then you go and you knock on every door, and you're kind of trying to judge it by the bumper stickers on the cars. Are they going to give me money? I don't know. And then it was constant people telling you that they didn't want to talk to you, and nobody wanted to talk to you during the day. And maybe by the time I got to my fourth week, halfway through my shift, I would usually just sit on the curb and start crying for a while. And then, because I didn't feel like I had another option, I would go back and knock on the rest of the doors. This nonprofit would do a lot of things that were exploitive, that they would disguise as fun. And because I was 17, I sort of believed them. One of the things that they would do was that you could go on a camping canvas, which is that you drive to another city for a week to go canvas there instead. And so they don't give you any extra money to do this, instead of doing paying for your meals or a per diem, they just tell you to canvas food from the doors. Which is how I wound up getting a lot of Salisbury steak TV dinners. Food nobody else wants. And so I did one of these where we drove out to, on maybe the fifth week, I was so tired of it, I was anything different is better. So we drove out to Reno, Nevada. It took all day, it took all of Sunday to get there. And when we get to our camping site, it's me and 8 or so people. We get there, and it's just a dirt patch. There are some campsites that are next to scenic vistas. This was a bathroom and a water spigot on the edge of the desert where no human should go. It was a dirt patch. And for 5 days we lived there in that dirt patch. And we went around Reno, Nevada, around the suburbs of Reno, Nevada, knocking on the doors, asking for money. And it was the worst canvassing anyone in the group had ever done. They said that, the first day I squeaked by, the second day I squeaked by, the third day I squeaked by, the fourth day, just out in the sun in the suburbs of Reno, Nevada, I was running between doors so desperate and so sweaty and got sunburned. And by the end of the day, I had $0. That's what's called bageling. I bageled on that day. And the next day, I woke up, and I went back out again to the suburbs again, knocking on doors, until only like an hour or two into my shift, I knocked on the door, and this guy opened it. He looked okay. He looked like he might give me some money. And so, I started into the spiel, and he interrupted me, and he said, "Oh, I'm not interested." And so I said, "Well, I've got some pamphlets. Like, take a pamphlet." And he opened the door a little bit wider, and he had a gun in his hand. And he said, "Get off of my property." And I was too scared to turn away, so I just backed up really slowly to the sidewalk. And when I got to the sidewalk, I ran away. And I got to a park in this neighborhood, and I just, even though it was only like 2 hours into my shift, I flopped on the ground in this park, and I just lay there staring at the sky for hours until the person came to pick me up. And they took me we went to this pizza place downtown, and everybody counted out their money, and I had to tell them I bageled, And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking about how after driving all the way to Reno and sleeping in the dirt for a week and getting a gun drawn on me and eating Salisbury steak TV dinners over an open fire for dinner, I was going to go home and be fired. And I was sitting there, and I told them what happened to me, and without me saying anything, everyone else at the table started pulling out the money that they'd collected. And they put in $5, somebody put in $10, somebody put in $20, until we had $86. And they didn't even ask, they just wrote my name next to that money. And they said, "Okay, we're good." And then that night, everybody except for me got uproariously drunk back at the campsite. The next morning, while they were still hungover, we got back in the 2 company cars to drive back to Portland. And the first car, not that far outside of Reno, ran into a deer. And so we just fucking left it there. Everybody got in the other car. And so we're squished into this car, right? And we're like, we have failed to save the environment. We have driven thousands of miles to murder a deer. And I didn't even care, because I was happy squished in there with these friends of mine. And I realized then that no matter what I learned in school, that failure is really good for you. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Sarah Mirk. So the moral is you made these wonderful friends who helped you out.
Yeah. Despite my best efforts, they still appreciated me.
We all appreciate you.
Oh, thanks, Amy.
I'm a big fan.
You're such a good question asker.
Oh, thanks.
You are. You're good.
I'm preparing for my future talk show.
You have a talk show.
I do. It's at Helium once a month. Check it out. It's called Stand Up For Yourself. Anyway, this isn't about me, Sarah. I want to know. Okay, wait. First of all, did you say what your actual SAT score was?
No. No.
Lay it on us.
I'm not going to do that.
Sarah, we're open. We're trusting each other. What is it?
It's not even that good.
Liz, how old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay, I'm 34. Like, it used to be a lot harder to score high on
Also,
that
they
shit.
changed the numbers.
What was it?
Why are you doing this to me?
1520.
No.
1430.
Keep going down.
1350.
Higher than that.
Oh.
I can't believe I still remember, It's kind of like,
I was 1350.
I remember the prices. Yeah.
No big deal. I went to Berkeley. Don't worry about it.
I remember like the prices of everything that I buy, you know? And
Yeah.
somehow those numbers just stick there. Like you can never forget.
Totally.
But it's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's like not something you should care about.
Well,
Except to like have to fill in that square on a college application.
yeah, but you got into the college you wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. Because you're a self-described failure at this canvassing job, but
Yeah.
who was like? I want to know like the person in your group that was like the fucking best at it. Who were they? What was the technique?
Okay, there's two ways to go about it, right? One is to be extremely attractive. You know, everybody who survived past like 6 months is really good looking. And like, just keep that. It really has like perseverance. So let me think who the person. There was this, yeah. So and then the other one was like to have a really great life story. The woman who trained me was a refugee from Zimbabwe.
Oh, like a hard luck story.
A hard luck
So,
story.
but what are they pulling? Because you're shooting for $86 a day. So, what are they pulling? Like $400?
The woman who was from Zimbabwe was the best paid canvasser at the place. I don't know what she made, but it's like if you make, and if any canvassers correct me, but I believe if you make your quota, you get paid like minimum wage at the end of the week. And if you get more than that, you bonus. And so I don't know. I mean, it says, if you've ever seen those posters around town that are like, it's like, save the environment. You can make up to $2,000 a week. That is what the highest paid person is paying.
I feel like you have an idea of what this woman from Zimbabwe was making, and you're just not spilling it.
I never asked her, but I think something like maybe $1,000 a week, maybe.
But she never bageled.
She would never bagel, no.
Why is it called bageling? Because it looks like a zero?
Yeah, uh-huh.
But bagels are so delicious.
I know. I bagel every day now.
I bagel frequently as well. Let's hear it for Sarah Mirk, everybody. Thank you, Sarah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break, and when we have a few more storytellers, including another audience member. So if you want to put your name in the bucket, now's your last chance. We're going to call that person soon. Before you get up, I want to tell you about something amazing. June 6th at Alberta Rose Theater is the Dolly Parton Hoot Night, put on by Siren Nation. It's the fucking best. It's a whole night of Dolly Parton songs performed by local musicians. I'm on the show. Of course I am. Please come out June 6th. It's going to be so much fun. If you love Dolly Parton, if you love watching women musicians, come out to that. I don't know why. There's a lot of laughter in the back of the room, and I don't appreciate it, because when I mention Dolly, you should not laugh. You should only cry. We're going to take a brief intermission, and we'll see you back in a few minutes. Thanks, guys.